Good morning, everyone. I am Brandon Knuckles, the chair of the Board of Trustees here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lakeland.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just want to give you a little note on masks before we begin the service. We do ask and require that everyone wear a mask inside the sanctuary, with the exception of our fully vaccinated speakers on stage here. When it's time to sing, you may sing or hum, but please be mindful that we are still taking care of one another, and that we want to sing quietly behind our masks so as not to push too much air. I think Ted is talking. Good morning, Ted. We want to make sure if we do sing, you want to sing very softly, or you can hum, or you can sway, or maybe do a little jig in your area. But we want to keep our masks on and sing nice and safely. Hopefully we can get towards singing at some point. Thank you all. Brandon forgot one more thing. If you are connected to our Wi-Fi, we would ask that you disconnect at this time for streaming purposes. The more people we have on Wi-Fi, the harder it makes that in regards to our streaming. Thank you.
I don't know why the sound's not coming.
Need help?
I don't know.
We're waiting for our music to start.
Oh, they're
Transition.
just starting
And we just need to mute our Zoom friends. Yeah. Everybody's talking at me. I don't hear a word they're saying, only the echoes of my mind. From chaos to compassion, to find peace amidst the noise is often simply a shift of attitude. So much of our world perception is affected by our ability to feel compassion for ourselves and one another. From The Secret to Attracting Luck by Richard Webster, attitude refers to a person's state of mind and often reveals how one thinks and acts. A positive attitude is a mental and emotional approach to life that expects positive results. It's a key ingredient for success. Having a negative attitude means you expect failure. Fortunately, you can control your attitude and turn a negative one into a positive one and transform your life. The author offers some tips on how to change your attitude. First, you must evaluate your current attitude. Identify it. Where does it lie on the spectrum of attitudes? Then reflect on a time when you were happy and content and bring that energy to your body, to your spirit, to the moment, and into your day. Then you can begin to shift your thoughts and your speech from negative to positive. Spend time with people who have positive attitudes. Laugh, breathe, let it go. And, importantly, help others when you are able. Welcome, friends, visitors, and spirits among us, to the worship service of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lakeland. My name is Crystal. I am the co-chair for Buildings and Grounds, and I am the worship associate for today. Unitarian Universalists acknowledge that diversity and pluralism is a strength. Pluralism is a condition or system in which two or more states, groups, principles, sources of authority, etc., coexist. To embrace multiculturalism, multiracialism, and multigenerationalism is our way of building a bridge to a peaceful coexistence. This is what we value, not what we fear. What a blessing it is for us to be together this morning. Let us make this space sacred by lighting our chalice. Ambra, thank you so much. Each week, Unitarian Universalist congregations around the world light their chalice as they renew their commitment to our principles, which you can read on our walls. I invite you to settle into a sacred attitude as we begin this service. Thank you, Adam, for playing, and Glenda and Petra for signing. In this community, we make space to listen to one another, to our stories, leaving no one behind, finding the radiance in spite of our hardships. Each of us walks a different path, but we know that together we are stronger. Our community is sustained by the giving of our best selves, our time, our talents, and our treasures. Please take a moment when you are able to write a check to UUCL or to make a donation through our PayPal link, which can be found in the chat. Please, tech folks. Thank you so much. It can also be found in the newsletter. Did you know? Thank you all so much for continuing to be a part of this caring community. We know how to rewind here, right? Pause, rewind.
When I am frightened, will you reassure me? When I'm uncertain, will you hold my hand? Will you be strong for me? Sing to me quietly. Will you share some of your stories with me? If you will show me compassion, then I may learn to care as you do. Then I may learn to care. When I am angry, will you still embrace me? When I am thoughtless, will you understand? Will you believe in me? Stand by me willingly? Will you share some of your questions with me? If you will show me acceptance, then I may learn to give as you do. Then I may learn to give. When I am troubled, will you listen to me? When I am lonely, will you be my friend? Will you be there for me? Comfort me tenderly. Will you share some of your feelings with me? If you will show me commitment, then I may learn to love as you do. Then I may learn to love. Good morning, everyone. I am going to be reading a story this morning without the mask. This is an Iroquois tale of peacemaking entitled Rabbitfoot. Many hundreds of years ago, the 5 nations of the Iroquois, Mohawk and Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, and Seneca, always were at war with one another. They had forgotten their common culture, their similar languages, their lessons to live together in peace. So it was that the great Creator sent down a messenger to all of the 5 nations. His name was Peacemaker, and he told them many stories about peace and war. This is one of his tales. Once there was a boy named Rabbitfoot. He was always looking and listening. He knew how to talk to the animals, so the animals would talk to him. One day, As he walked out in the woods, he heard the sound of a great struggle coming from a clearing just over the hill. So he climbed that hilltop to look down. What he saw surprised him. There was a great snake coiled in a circle. It had caught a huge frog, and although the frog struggled, the snake was slowly swallowing its legs. Rabbitfoot came closer and spoke to the frog. "He has really got you, friend." The frog looked up at Rabbitfoot. "Why, that is so," the frog said. Rabbitfoot nodded, then said to the frog, "Do you see the snake's tail there, just in front of your mouth? Why not do to him what he is doing to you?" Then the huge frog reached out and grabbed the snake's tail. He began to stuff it into his mouth as the Rabbitfoot watched both of them. The snake swallowed more of the frog swallowed more of the snake, and the circle got smaller and smaller until both of them swallowed one last time. And just like that, they were both gone. They had eaten each other, the peacemaker said. And in much the same way, unless you give up war and learn to live together in peace, that also will happen to you. Many of us began life in a quite chaotic state, letting out that ferocious, life-affirming wail after being pushed, pulled, forcibly removed from a very comfortable cocoon of 9 months. There are exceptions to every rule, of course. From this auspicious beginning, without even awareness of boundaries, some of us were lovingly influenced by momisms. "Put your sweater on, don't you know? Don't you think I know when you're cold?" Or, "Do not make that face, or it will freeze in that position." Perhaps, "Shut your mouth and eat your dinner." Very good. Numerous of these made absolutely no sense, and yet we were to learn proper decorum from them. We can't blame Mom. She was merely reacting to ancestral conditioning. We are the offspring of a daughter who is the daughter of a daughter who is, where'd it go? This side? No, it's not that side. Oh, I see what happened. There it goes. Who is also the daughter of a daughter. Some of us are mothers or fathers, but all of us are offspring, all birthed through lines that weave back to an immortal seed, all connected from the very beginning, all connected in the now, all offspring born from one original egg, from one immortal seed. So why the separation? Why the animosity toward each other? Why the arguing and fighting, backstabbing, and lack of support? The next time you see another, look into their eyes and see the ancestral lines that lead back to you. Where are we going? And how will we get there? By staying connected and celebrating difference. For we are, each one, after all offspring of offspring of offspring of our one immortal seed. This was inspired by the daughter line, the sacred wild, the art and word weavings of Arlene Bailey.
A member of UUCL for about 3 years, and we're talking about chaos to compassion. History is written by the winners. Our culture must know the history of all participants, women, Black, LGBTQ, and Latin Americans have been eliminated from our history. To paraphrase Clint Smith, the author of the book, How the Word Was Passed, the conservative worldview is based on fear, lies, misrepresentation, and the creation of social battles. For example, abortion, immigration, and teaching slavery. Not ideas, not things that will make our country better. Fires are being lit to occupy attention, to prevent organizing, and to scare people to think that the world they knew is changing and they should be frightened. The insidiousness of this is that empirical statements are turned into ideological statements. Reconciliation requires us to teach the history of slavery, to teach the history of Jim Crow apartheid, to teach the history of indigenous peoples removal, to teach the history of Japanese internment, to teach the history of the treatment of women during witch hunts. Children in Germany are being taught the country's violent past in order to prevent it from happening in the future. These are not ideological endeavors. It is honesty about what this country has done so that we can more effectively repair the harm in order to build a more just and equitable country. On the subject of the Holocaust education in Germany, the Institute for Research in the Humanities says, Germany knows the magnitude of its responsibility for the worst crimes in European history and strives to come to grips with this legacy. If there is anything Germany can share from its own experience, it is this. Facing up to the grim truth of what took place is the only path to reconciliation. A past that is not examined fully and honestly will remain a burden for the future. To teach our students how to hold the complexity of a country that has provided millions and millions of people across generations opportunities they could have never imagined for upward mobility and wealth, that has done so under the direct expense of millions of other people. I believe it will teach students to accept their own shadow self and their loving self. I was asked to mention a situation of compassionate communication. I have used that was successful. Well, I could not think of one incident, which told me that is my problem. You see, I have this shame gene that gets in the way. When I feel judged, I want to flee. So that is not conducive to compassionate communication. It is no communication at all. But hopefully this request will teach me about my own history. About 10 years ago, I lost a friend I had for 30 years. We had plans to come to my home for dinner. I discovered, however, that I had to represent our church at an event, so I contacted our group and told them I had to postpone and I apologized. My friend called me the next day, hostile, saying, I can't believe you have done this again. I talked to my daughter who told me that why should you maintain this relationship? I was shocked. I didn't know how to respond, so I didn't, and we haven't spoken since. I could have used a few compassionate communication principles, such as 1, focus on the other person. I could have said, I am so sorry. Tell me how you felt. I did not intend that to happen, and please forgive me. 2, I listen attentively and keep my own mouth shut. 3, do not rush to respond. I hear what you are saying. But you see, I did not do any of this, and therefore I lost a longtime friend. Those who do not learn history are doomed to repeat it.
Yes, we do need to teach the history of all peoples in accordance with their experiences. It's unfair for any one person or a group of people to make decisions as to what is remembered. History, like the media, should always be unbiased. The problem is that there are as many stories in any situation as there are participants. How can all be given a fair and equitable voice? A Cherokee elder was teaching his young grandson about life and told this story. "I have a fight going on in me," the old man said. "It's taking place between two wolves. One is evil. He's anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego." The grandfather looked at his grandson and went on. "The other embodies positive emotions. He's joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. Both wolves are fighting to the death. The same fight is going on in you and every other person too." The grandson took a moment to reflect on this. At last he looked up at his grandfather and asked, "Which one will win?" The old Cherokee gave a simple reply, "The one you feed." How do we feed the universal voice of truth and compassion?
On communications. This was told to me a few decades ago by a very wise person. Everyone is different. When two or more people get together and have a conversation, such as roommates, married couples, friends, partners, etc., one is encouraged to recognize that each person comes from a different background. Each person comes from a different family, possibly a different gender or sexual orientation, possibly a different region, and possibly a different city or country. For example, I'm from Chicago. My husband is from the Detroit area. This means, excuse me, that each comes from a different culture. They may see things in different ways depending on how and where they grew up. When two such people come together, sometimes sparks will fly when they are having a conversation. Each may have different views on many subjects. This does not mean that one is right and one is wrong when discussing feelings or opinions. Think back to your own childhood. How often did you have disagreements with your parents or siblings? That didn't mean that you could not get along with them most of the time. That didn't mean that they were bad people and that you didn't have a lot in common most of the time. Usually, you even loved each other. We all have opinions on different subjects. We can listen to other opinions and ideas and find some that we agree with. Recently, I was discussing something political with a friend and discovered that we were on opposite sides. However, as our conversation continued, we did find something on which we agreed, and that made both of us feel good about each other. My secret is to listen to what the other person has to say and try very hard not to interrupt them. And when that person has finished, I give my opinion if it is different. It's very hard not to interrupt for me. I don't want anyone interrupting me when I am trying to get a thought out, and neither does the person I'm talking to. It is respectful to let the other person finish their thoughts before jumping in to say yours. Okay, so you might forget what you wanted to say. It happens to me a lot, often too, because I am old and forgetful. But after a few seconds, I remember what it was. And sometimes I keep paper and pencil nearby so I can make notes to remind myself. Sometimes my husband and I have disagreements, I feel that sometimes he doesn't hear me or believe what I am saying when I am sure that I am right because of my experience in the subject. Excuse me. I have finally learned to stop myself from getting upset and voicing retorts. Hopefully. I have noticed that our relationship has become much more peaceful since I stopped reacting in a negative way most of the time. I discovered that if I don't react, neither does he. Imagine that. Finally, please remember that everyone else wants to be respected, and so do you. Especially if you live in the same house or you are part of a group or larger organization. Please give others the same respect that you wish for yourself.
Good morning. I'm Sherry Murray. Prior to raising my two boys, I was a systems analyst for 20 years. Then I decided to quit the rat race and stay home with my boys instead. When they got older, I began to sub in the Fairfax public school system. When Petra called and asked me to talk about a situation that began with chaos and ended with compassion, I instantly remembered a situation that happened when I was subbing. I was in a long-term assignment in the school's library. The school was a Spanish immersion school and had students from many different countries. Many of the students were homeless and were part of the free lunch program. So, as you can imagine, many of the students were high energy and very disruptive. One day, a class of second graders entered the library, and I noticed a situation that was escalating between a little boy and a little girl. I pulled them aside and asked what was going on. The little girl said, "He hit me." When I heard that, I asked the little girl how she was feeling, and she replied, "Angry and sad." Then I asked the little boy, "Hearing her, how do you feel?" And he replied, "Sad." Next, I asked the little girl, "Hearing him, how do you feel?" And she replied, "Happy." When practicing empathy, the first thing we need to do is notice where the energy is. In the two children physically struggling, and I heard their voices getting louder. Next, we need to hear those communicating to us the way they want to be heard, not the way we want to hear them. This is very easy to say, but very difficult to do. Marshall Rosenberg is the author of a book titled Nonviolent Communication, and he explains that at the core of all anger is a need that is not fulfilled. At the core of all anger is a need that is not fulfilled. So, we need to figure out what the need is or needs are that are not being fulfilled. As humans, we all have the same needs: food, shelter, safety. Needed to be heard the way she needed to be heard, to be safe, and to be respected. Now, we need to figure out a strategy to satisfy those needs. Once she was heard and felt safe and respected, she was happy. Not only children, but adults too, need the opportunity to practice empathy so we can confidently replace chaos with compassion. Thank you for this opportunity.
In the midst of pain, I choose love. In the midst of pain, I choose love.
Good morning. My name is Bobby Harris, a member of this community and a retired history educator. Now, when you stand in front of a classroom that's full of 20 to 35 students, they're 17 to 50 years of age, there's a lot of things that go on in your mind. Will this be a good day? When the majority of the students are prepared for the discussion, will I be on target? Will I remember what I wanted to say? Will they have a clue of whatever the concepts are or the broader picture that I'm trying to engage their minds with? Those are the things that are running through my mind as I'm looking out at all of these faces who are looking at me for wisdom. Now, on rare occasions, there's a student in class who will sit right in the front row, right in front of my face, and start to nod off. Not a bad or defiant student, but a tired one. There was a student like this. He was part of the Honors Institute, and the class that I'm talking about was an honors class. We expect more from those students. He's older than most students, probably mid-20s, and he's a good conversationalist. So when he wasn't talking, I missed him because he could carry a conversation. Sleeping is not allowed. So initially, I tap the student and suggest he go out, put some cold water on his face, do a couple jumping jacks, run around the block, and then come back. These were my initial suggestions that were not repeated as the semester continued, because he continued to do it. I just tapped on the desk and whispered, "Wake up." He told me later that the reason that he sleeps is that he works from 12 midnight until 8 o'clock in the morning, and this class is at 9:30. It is not just sleeping in class that was his problem. It is late. He's late for class, or he's not attending at all because something happens at work that he needs to stay over. But he would fall asleep in his car and forget to come in. All of that was happening. So 15 weeks of sleep issues when he was in class right in front of me. So now late withdrawals are over. That's not an option anymore. And the semester comes to an end. He takes the final and barely passes it. His overall grade was a whisker from an F. He takes home the grade he earned in the class, a D. Now the begging, the pleading about what the grade I gave him, not what he earned, but I gave him, would mean for his GPA and his scholarship and his ability to remain a member of the Honors Institute. What do I hear? I hear violins playing as he's talking. There were many phone calls and emails to me. I answered every phone call. I answered every email. He promised to write his research paper if I would accept him and give him a grade with a penalty. I was not moved to do anything. I felt bad for him. I really did. But it was what it was. Finally, I said to him, after many of these phone calls and emails, that he was receiving the grade that he had earned, and that I understood the challenges that he faced. All semester he had challenges, but his challenges and Charlemagne's rise to the Holy Roman Emperor were centuries apart. Plus, if he were my child, I would give him the grade he earned and would hope that any professor would give my child the grade they had earned. Fast forward, he received a warning from the Honors Institute because of the tremendous drop in his GPA, but he brought it back up by retaking the class, but not with me. Over the next few years, I heard about him. He did well at FAMU, got a street TV reporter position outside of Atlanta, and then went on to St. Louis as the weekend anchor of a local TV station. I followed him on Facebook, still believing that he was always going to be angry with me about the grade. But it was okay with me. I was an educator. I was not a grade giver. So then, in February of this year, when he became an anchor, he sent me a message written on his HCC, the school that I taught at, graduation photo, 6 years earlier, that he said he intended to give me, but never did. It read, and I quote, "Words cannot express how much you changed my life. So many life lessons I'm taking with me that you taught me. Do the work. I'll never forget you. Love you dearly. And today I still say thank you."
Good morning. My name is Glenda Littlehale, and I'm part of this community. That's going to be a hard one to follow, Bobby. That was pretty awesome. Compassionate communication is a giving and receiving of messages. It requires great honesty and openness, developing a certain literacy of expressions, and overcoming deeply ingrained learning that emphasizes judgment, fear, obligation, duty, punishment, reward, and shame. The intention is to create the quality of connection with other people and oneself that allows compassionate giving to take place. Our nature, in its true expression, requires us to honor our perceptions, feelings, and desires, while reframing how we express ourselves and hear others. Our words must become conscious responses based on honesty, clarity, compassion, and respect to the receiving party. In our community, we live by a set of values. They have deep meaning to us as UUs. They are not intended to be followed at our convenience. They're intended to be life goals, to guide us in all situations, my opinion to be sure. We look to our elders in many parts of our lives, not to hold us back, but for better or for worse, to hold us up as we take the reins moving forward. The elders in every event are there to pass on their wisdom and continue to be stalwart in difficult times and to encourage our forward movement. We should be able to look to them for support at every crossroads. My mother, in her infinite wisdom, taught me not to judge my future sister-in-law when we found out she was pregnant, but to keep loving and supporting her where she was. Her condition did not change who she was, and I identify that as one of the most important lessons she imparted to me. Many years ago, I had a friend who was very near and dear to me. I thought we would always be besties through any storm. One day, I behaved in a way she judged harshly, probably warranted. She stopped calling me, and she stopped responding to my calls. I wrote her a letter asking her forgiveness, but again, no response. I was devastated because I did not understand why we couldn't talk about it. I have made peace with her choice to not communicate with me, but I will always have an empty, painful place in my heart where she used to live. This community is my family, and this place is my home. Even if I haven't met you yet or had much conversation with you, you are in my heart. I feel pain and sadness when we are at odds, and even more when I see and hear disparaging behavior and comments toward others of my family. That's not how we were taught. Our values have to mean something to all of us. Otherwise, what is the purpose of this community? When a new day begins, dare to smile gratefully. When there is darkness, dare to be the first to shine a light. When there is injustice, dare to be the first to condemn it. When something seems difficult, dare to do it anyway. When times are tough, dare to be tougher. When love hurts you, dare to love again. When someone is hurting, dare to help them heal. When another is lost, dare to help them find the way. When a friend falls, dare to be the first to extend a hand. When you cross paths with another, dare to make them smile. When you feel great, dare to help someone else feel great too. When the day has ended, dare to feel as you've done your best. Dare to be the best you can. In the end, maybe we must all give up trying to pay back the people in this world who sustain our lives. In the end, maybe it's wiser to surrender before the miraculous scope of human generosity and to just keep saying thank you, forever and sincerely, for as long as we have voices. Now I'm going to freak out all the tech people and my compatriots here. And if you would please indulge me this moment to go off script. Those among us whose lives are marginalized every day do not choose to come or to stay in this community because we figured it all out and execute it perfectly, but rather because we don't. We fail on a daily basis, doing or saying the wrong things, but we try with honesty and authenticity. This is a community that professes, through our values, love, acceptance, and affirmation to every person. We fight an ongoing battle against an insidious cancer of hate in so many forms, and we can't stop trying. We can't stop trying. Namaste.
Thank you, Glenda. Thank you, Petra. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. In Buddhist teachings, compassion is described as a quivering of the heart. in response to suffering. Compassion awakens as we allow ourselves to be affected by our shared vulnerability, our own or that of another. It's the medicine we need to bring healing to our world. These words come from Tara Brach. Thank you so much for being with us today. We do have a meditation. And if I may also go off script for just a slight moment. My father-in-law passed away last night. And if you all could send your love and healing energies to our family, we would greatly appreciate it.
Mi abuela was a tree. My father was the river. My mother was the sea. My sister was the rain. My brother was the snow. My cousin was a pelican who knew the way home. My life has been one long track of a journey just to be. Adventures and disasters all come together in me. I would like to introduce you to a compassion meditation called Tonglen, which in the Tibetan language means give and take, or send and receive. In Tonglen, you are drawing in someone's pain and sending back your compassion. This is a somewhat unusual meditation because your primary focus is drawing in what we consider bad feelings and converting them into positive energy or feelings to send back to them. For our Tonglen practice today, if you'd like to follow along with me, choose someone you know who could use some compassion. I'm going to focus on a beautiful young woman I saw on the bus yesterday who was in a wheelchair. First, let's draw in a deep breath and let it out while releasing any other thoughts and closing down your eyelids as much as is comfortable. Then rest your hands on your legs and straighten your spine. We will breathe in the black smoke of their pain and breathe out compassion. And just focus on breathing in their pain and breathing out compassion. Breathe in pain, out compassion. Breathe in their pain, breathe out your compassion. Breathe in frustration, breathe out peace. And see the black smoke of pain being converted to clean compassion as you breathe it back out to them. Breathe in pain, breathe out compassion. Breathe in frustration, breathe out peace. Breathe in barriers, breathe out freedom. Now you can move your fingers and open your eyes. Thank you for sharing this meditation with me. I hope that you find it as rewarding as I have. Peace and thank you.
Please join me in extinguishing the chalice. Amber, thank you. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world. And we have some announcements.
Alrighty. Well, our call to community this week is pretty much usual. On Thursday, June 10th at 6:30, we will have a creative and production team meeting, Zoom only. On Friday, June 11th at 7 p.m., there's the Friday Fire. That will be in person out here on the patio, well, around the fire pit, duh. So reach out to Brandon Knuckles if you need information about that. Next Sunday, June 13th at 10 a.m., as usual, our adult discussion and Sunday seekers will meet on Zoom and in person here at the sanctuary. If you want information about that, you can reach out to Ken Wachter for adult discussion and Jeanette Manning for Sunday seekers. So, I should have started on the first side with Monday. Who cares? Monday, June 7th at 10 a.m., our women's group meets on Zoom only. You'll find the link in the newsletter, or you can reach out to Glenda Littlehale for more information. Tuesday on the 2nd at 10 a.m. is our coffee clutch. That's in person only. It's here out on the patio. Reach out to Jeanette Manning for more information on that. Tuesday, June 8th at 7 p.m. is the book club news. Zoom only. They'll be discussing part 3, the 8 pillars of caste. Reach out to Marilyn Crossan for information on that one. Wednesday, June 9th at 6:30, there is a choir rehearsal in person and on Zoom. And we will also be working more on our June Love Shenanigans, which is rehearsing the song of I Need Somebody to Love. So you can reach out to Adam Hargrove for information on that. Heather will be out from June 6th through June 9th. She will be available again on Thursday, June 10th. And that takes us through all of those. So I switch over to this one, and I read, we have a covenant in our UUCL worship committee. That covenant is to understand the worship needs of our congregation. We covenant to be inclusive of the diverse and varied spiritual paths and practices of our congregants and be aware of various needs. We covenant to listen and be curious in a respectful way. And in order for our worship committee to fulfill this covenant, we would appreciate a response to a very short 2-question survey. You'll find a link in the newsletter for the Survey Monkey. Click the link to the Survey Monkey, answer a couple of questions about your experience here in our services, and we would greatly appreciate it. One last thing, we need volunteers in the religious exploration. It takes a village to raise a child, and it certainly takes a village to care and educate our young UUs. Parents are an important part of the program, but they also need to be able to attend worship and participate in education. So please consider volunteering to assist. We always need help with the children, so the second doesn't have to teach, but is needed for safety. Fetch, we need 2 people. That's what we need. We need 2 people. It stops in the middle of the sentence. I'm making up the ending part as I go along. Okay, we need 2 people in our RE program. 1, support, safety, fetching water, drinking water, and things like that. And we also need a youth group for our older kids. We want to get that started. If you will contact Melissa at re@uuclakeland.org if you have any questions about that and you want to help out, or leave a message in the office and Melissa Marshall will get back to you. All right. Thank you all for being here live and on Zoom. Thank you, Zoom family. We appreciate you as well. And this is so nice to see so many faces here in person. It's wonderful. It's getting more and more exciting every week. So thank you all. I believe we have a very short video for our outgoing.
Comes the sun, here comes the sun. I said it's alright.